Welcome to the very first edition of On the Spot. It's a community interview show where we interview people of the community who are making a positive contribution. And my first guest, without question, makes a very positive contribution to our community, especially the youth of our community. It's Holly Dunn. Holly, welcome to On the Spot.
Well, thank you for having me.
We're putting you on the spot today.
I am on the spot.
Yes, we're going to showcase Holly Dunn and showcase what you do at the Haven. And you've done that for a couple years now.
5
years now.
Well, okay, so that was a lie. We're in our 4th year, headed to 5.
Headed to 5. So you're around the corner, approaching 5 years for the Haven. Before we get to that, Holly, let's talk about you. Who is Holly Dunn?
Well, that's a broad question.
It is a broad question.
Well, I guess I would probably...
A dear friend of mine.
Well, yeah. I mean, we actually, I'm thinking, you said 10 years.
Yeah, it's about 10 years, wasn't it? Maybe, is it longer?
We graduated in 2005.
So that's 9 years. So,
and so
it would
we
be
knew
longer than, yeah.
Yep.
So, okay,
So
I didn't major in math.
Well, that's fine. I didn't either. Actually, you know, it's kind of funny that you'd ask who am I. I always kind of assess that and where am I going and what's coming next. And I would say it's funny, we just had our 20-year class reunion. Can you believe that?
Well, I'm way past that.
And so looking back over the last 20 years, I think it's kind of exciting to see where I'm at, because I hated high school and now I work at a high school. And a lot of times who we are is what we do.
Right.
And so I work at the high school in the guidance department as the freshman success coach. Outside of that, I do youth ministry, and I love my family and I love the Lord, and really, that's who I am. When it boils right down to it, I'm a person that just loves people. You
love people, and that's the thing. I think when we first met, we were in Spanish class. My first Friday class was in Spanish class, and I was terrible at it.
I automatically get a face.
I know, I get that blank stare too. Luz Marie, she was a great, fabulous professor, but I mean, I just didn't get it.
I specifically remember you and I both. I think we were in the same category.
Right.
She would call on us, and I really went, please God, no.
Yeah, I know. I did the same thing.
No,
she would call me, and I'd be like, ¿Cómo está? Yeah, that was the standard answer for me. Yeah, exactly. K? I didn't quite get it. But we loved her, and that's how we met. And you and I actually did this on the campus of IU East. We kind of did interviews. Yeah, so this is not our first time in front of the camera.
It's just been a 9-year sabbatical.
Yeah, right, yeah, exactly. But now we're putting you on the spot. You know, you were definitely on the spot. Holly, so, you know, you go way back, and I remember when you left, when we graduated college, you were the speaker of our graduating commencement. Yeah, I forget what that word was. And I remember you just gave a moving speech, and then we lost sort of contact because you went to Denver.
Yeah.
And tell us about Denver.
Well, I lived out there for 5 years. It was the best time of my life. And I mean, I feel like everyone needs to move away. I'm not from Indiana. I'm from Ohio.
Me too.
I came,
I'm a Buckeye.
I knew that, but I think I forgot that. But I graduated from IU, and then I felt like I needed to go to grad school. Went out there, and really it was just a chance to meet probably some of the best people I've ever known in my life, and really had a blast, and got to kind of really know myself, kind of separate from my family, and really it's probably, I left a part of my heart there. I love it. I try to get back as often as I can, and but it's, you know, it was just time to come home.
You know, I guess Peyton Manning must have picked up that part of your heart when he's out there.
Oh, I'm just saying, they act like they own Peyton in Colorado, but no, we know.
Yeah, we know he's
ours. Yeah.
He's ours first.
Yeah.
So you go out to Denver grad school. What did you graduate when you were from IU East? I forget. We were in the same humanities, but I forget exactly.
Yeah, I have a bachelor's in behavioral social science psychology, and then I have a Bachelor of Arts in communication.
That's why you love me so much, so you can analyze me, right?
I do.
There you go. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then I went out to Denver and studied at the University of Denver in international intercultural communication. And I live in Connersville, Indiana. And if you do a Google search for jobs in Indiana, it's international trucking.
Yeah, okay. and it's definitely not here in Connersville, Indiana. But you're here, and what? How did you get here?
Well, I blame God. for real. Honestly, it was really kind of probably one of the coolest stories. I mean, I feel like if you look at my life, it's just really evident that he has been in control from the beginning. I had came back, my mom had passed away, and my dad had remarried, and I felt like I needed to be near my family. I had young nieces and nephews
and they're just over the border.
And
correct?
they were just over the border, and I felt like I needed to spend some time with them. So I'd kind of gone back into my old life. I'd gone back to working with 21st Century Scholars at Indiana University, and was planning an event here in town. It was a back to school rally, and while here, had really kind of gotten connected with the school and community agencies here in town, and I really loved how giving and compassionate Fayette County is just in general.
Right.
I mean, just immediately felt connected. And I had been gone I had been gone for a total of 7 years, total at that point. And it was funny, I had gone into, at the time it was Brunsman's graphic design, and Rita Brunsman, it was really just, the irony of it was, she said, I have an apartment right next door.
Yeah, I remember, yeah.
And she said, you should take a look at it. And I said, Rita, I'm living in my dad's house, it's free. He had gotten remarried, and the housing market's not moving. There's really I'm fine.
Yeah, why move?
Why move? And she pretty much said, no, really, you should go look at my apartment. And she said, it's just across the way. And so Rita and I walked over and we looked at her apartment. It was really nice. And she said, I'll give you a great deal on it. And I said, well, Rita, if by chance my dad's house would sell, I'll be glad to come to Connersville. Yeah. And I got in my car and I got over to Potter's shop, and my phone rang. It was my dad, and someone had looked at his home and said, we want to buy it quickly.
So pack your bags and get out?
We would like immediate possession in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And so I called Rita and said, hey, Rita, that apartment that I didn't want, I need it in 2 weeks.
Did you call her right?
I called her right back.
That's unbelievable.
And in my mind and your mind, and it was absolutely a Jesus thing.
Yeah, it has to be.
I mean, it had to be a Jesus thing. I wasn't looking to move to Connersville, and it just so happened she had this perfect apartment that was recently remodeled, and so I moved back to Connersville, and it wasn't at all my plan, but God is in control, and literally that is how it happened. I went to drop off they were pledge certificates to the middle school, and I think it was Cindy Roberts said to me, hey, the high school has a job that's available. I know you're working 2 part-time jobs. You probably should look at it. I went online and looked, and it was literally the last day it was open, and I applied for the job, and that's how I ended up.
Well, I remember when you called me about that, and you were like, because I remember when you called me for 21st Century Scholars with my kids, and that's how I was like, because I remember like, it's Holly Dunn, you remember? Yes, I remember. It was remember that? Yeah, and I was like, yes, of course I remember you. And we kept in contact, and I remember when you called me up and says, hey, I'm interviewing for this job at the high school. Remember that? And I was like, will you pray? And I'm like, of course I'm going to pray, absolutely.
I was doing an event, and I invited your kids to come along, and I was getting ready to work at the high school. Yeah. It's a small world.
Yeah, it is small.
And so we totally reconnected after all that time.
Yeah, and I was like very happy, and you've been very positive with both of my kids, especially my daughter. And that brings us up to where you're at now. I mean, you have made a positive influence on a lot of kids in this community.
Well, I think I've had a lot of help. I'm just saying.
We all do.
I've really just been at the right place at the right time. Like, we had a conversation. I know that like people, we obviously have known each other for a while. A lot of life experience brings you to where we are today. We don't just arrive. And so like my personal life, growing up, I experienced a lot of things, and then strategically I've met wonderful people that have always poured into me, and as a result, I think when kids come into my office, I relate to them, and then I also know wonderful people that if I don't know how to fix it,
you know people who do.
I know people who do, and I can send them somewhere else and try to figure out. Okay, so if this isn't in my skill set, I can send it to somebody else.
Yeah, and who are some of those people? I mean, I think I have an idea. Matter of fact, I know, but
who?
Put them on the spot too.
Oh, absolutely. I'll put them on the spot. Right away, I would say the people who have maybe had the greatest influence on my life is Jesse and Michelle Kelly.
Yes, very good people.
Jesse and Michelle Kelly, I met them when I was just 19 years old. Now, today we feel like we're kind of the same age. Right. they're just they're enough older than me that when I was 19, they were mentors to me. And they really, I refer to it as being current changers. Like if you think of a stream and if you throw enough stones into that stream, you can change the direction of it. They came into my life at a time when I was headed one way, and they poured enough into me that I believe that they changed the direction of my life.
That's awesome.
And so as a result, they are still people today that whenever I don't know how to figure something out, they're on my top of my go-to list, and they're immediately people who I've actually referred Michelle to Alexis several times.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Your daughter.
Yeah.
And they are just fantastic human beings.
Yeah.
Jackie and Tim Barraclough are another couple in this community that I know that the ministry that is the passion of my heart wouldn't be where it's at today had Jackie and Tim Barraclough not came into my life. I was moonlighting at IU East after I had started working at the high school. Pulled into IU East parking lot and thought to myself, the fuel ministry had just started. We were at Cross Point, and I thought, I can't do this alone. We are not going to be able to continue if I can't find another couple to kind of carry the weight. And literally pulled in, and it was like I had met Jackie a couple times. I didn't really know her, and I made a phone call, and that night they came to, within that week they came to Fuel, and they really pretty much have never left. And that was about 3 months in. And so Jackie and Tim have just pretty much constantly been there. And then just a little bit after that, Cindy Spears came on the scene.
Oh yeah.
And Cindy has really just she's a lot of times the brains in our finances, and she does a lot of behind the scenes stuff. She's definitely at Fuel every week. But Cindy Spears is fantastic. I love her. And then obviously we partner. I think Connorsville is a huge it just has a huge heart. The whole community. There's a lot of great organizations, and you will not struggle to find people to put on the spot in this town.
Oh yeah, and that's one of the things. The idea of the show is that there are a lot of people in this community who do a lot of things. Some do them definitely behind the scenes, where they don't want to be on the spot. But I think it's important to recognize the positive, because it's easy to pick out all the negative. I mean, come on, we can do a whole show on everything that's wrong with Connorsville. But in order to fix what's wrong, we need to really start focusing on what's right, and maybe enhance what is right, because of the fact that we need to build that up. We got a lot of youth in this town that needs something positive, and you bring that with the Haven.
Well, I think you're right in that athletics is very important. Obviously all of the data shows that students who are involved in extracurricular activities, they have better grades, and they do better. But not all kids fit into that mold. Not everyone has the finances, because it takes a lot of money. It takes money. It takes transportation. It takes commitment. That not just being really honest. Not all kids have been trained.
Sure, right.
To be at 2-a-days for football.
Right.
You don't just arrive in high school ready to be a varsity sport.
Well, I know I didn't arrive at high school ready to be in high school.
Right. And so I think the Haven, outside of the fact that, I love Jesus and I want to expose kids to God. And
absolutely.
It gives me the freedom to do that, where at the high school, I can't do that, obviously. It gives me a venue to do that. But it also gives kids a place to belong.
Right.
And I think that that's something that I love, because we have kids that generally, obviously Fuel is one of the biggest parts of the Haven, and at 9 o'clock at night on a Friday night, when kids would normally be either at somebody's house doing things that it would be real easy to get in trouble doing, or roaming the streets, what I mean? Unsupervised. It gives them a place to be, that there's other adults around that's kind of there to be in their business and ask them what they're doing and check on them, and then also at the same time expose them to Jesus.
Right.
And and sometimes we're goofy and we have fun, and it's not at all church, or churchy.
Right. We're allowed to have fun.
Yeah. Sometimes we just watch a goofy movie and eat popcorn and have fun. So it's not always like that, you know.
Yeah. Well, you know, when I moved here in 1987, and I'm sure a lot of people will agree with this, when I moved here in 1987, there was nothing for the kids to do. Now, fast forward 27 years later, you still hear a lot of people say, well, there's nothing really for the kids to do. That's totally, absolutely not true. We got the Haven for that. But before the Haven, it was just fuel. And where did the idea of fuel come from, and exactly what does fuel mean? I believe I remember you telling me, but I want to make sure, what exactly does fuel mean, and where did that come from?
Okay, well, it's kind of funny. It originated in Colorado, actually.
Oh, well,
I kind of stole it.
Okay.
Fuel was in Denver. I had a group of young adults that I was a part of, and it was kind of an intimate time with God that I had never experienced before. I mean, when I moved to Colorado, I had known Christians, and I mean, I had known people that went to church on Sundays and maybe Bible study on Wednesday, and you know, claim to love Jesus and do love Jesus. But I had never met like young people that were like so committed that it was their life. It was their life. They wanted to go out, like literally, we would go out at 11 o'clock at night and go under the bridge and feed homeless people, and would go out on the street and do just street ministry and just kind of hang out with the, like, for a lack of better words, the poor and the needy, you know, like kind of being the body of Christ. I had never really met Christians who did that. You know what I mean? Outside of foreign mission fields. And so when I moved to Colorado, there was this kind of radical, like, Christian group of, I would say, largely 20-somethings that were, like, on Friday nights, they would kind of get together and have a time of worship and fellowship, and we'd kind of hang out and then, like, end up at, like, Denny's and, like, hang out until 3 and 4 in the morning and just... What
a great way to minister to the drunks that come in at 3 o'clock at Denny's. I mean, that's,
And it was fun, but probably I had the best friends in a week. Like, I moved there, and really within a week, I had met people that, I mean, I felt comfortable going to houses and painting their house and having lasagna on a Sunday after church, and I'd only been there a week. You know, I mean, I met people, and so we had this group, and it was called Fuel, which was basically gasoline for your spiritual walk. Like, it was a fellowship time for young adults, and so I loved it. I loved Fuel. I mean, I loved it, and it was probably one of the things that I missed most about Colorado when I moved back here, because I mean, I'm not a 20-something anymore, but I am a non-married single person that lives in a community where that's not really the case. I mean, we live in a community where mostly people are married, and
except me and you.
Except me and you. So anyway, so we'd kind of done a church plant, and I had a college or two kid that was in town, and I said, well, let's start this thing called Fuel, and it was what we had in mind. And I feel like I'm going very long into the story, so hopefully you're not bored. But
they're following along.
They're following along. So, but the long story is, that's not really how it started. That's not really how it turned out. So, yes, we had that group of people in mind, but then
God had a different idea. And He took over. And so, in my day job, and so Fayette County School Corporation, I hope you love me. In my day job, I had a homeless kid, and we took him job hunting. I had invited a community member to help me, and after school, he was 18 and was sleeping on park benches and house hopping, and he had a story. And long story short, we took him job hunting, and at the end of that night said, hey, I'm not trying to tell you that you should go to church or anything like that. I'm just saying, on Friday night, we're getting ready to start this thing, and we're gonna have pizza. So if you're hungry at 9 o'clock on Friday, if you come here, we'll feed you. Because I was just sincerely worried about the kid having food. It wasn't anything about Jesus, to be really honest. It was about him having food. Well, he showed up with 19 other kids. And so the very first night, I had a stream of these street kids that largely were kind of just roaming, doing their own thing. And they came in. And it's really crazy, but just even almost 5 years later, they still come in. Those same kids are still in my life and in my circle, and they have gone on, and many of them did graduate
They went about it, a lot of them differently than I would have hoped for them.
Right.
But they have gone on and have done other things, have jobs, have gotten married, have babies, and they still pop in on Fridays and check in and say hi. And I love them. They're probably my originals. They'll probably always maybe hold a special spot in my heart. But they kind of launched Fuel in a completely different direction. Yeah. And really, as it morphed and became what God intended, not what Holly intended, right. it grew because I couldn't have an outreach ministry right. like that without having balance. Right. So like I had to have help and had to have like, I have found, and actually it's kind of funny because, you know, I'm by trial and error, but there's like people out there who get paid to do things through research.
Right.
And, you know, research shows that, you know, kids do better if they have positive influence yes. Intermixed and interwoven. And so with Fuel, I have found that if I have a really good mix of kids that are, for another lack of better words, churched. So if I have kids that are experienced to sure. like a normal, mm-hmm. like a traditional church setting, sure. if they've been to church on Sunday morning and know that this is how you act, you sit down and you shut your lips yeah. when somebody's yeah. talking. Yeah. When it's worship time, you worship, you stand up, mm-hmm. you in our circle you clap. You don't have to clap if you don't want to. You know, if mm-hmm. you interact, right. this mm-hmm. is this is how you kind of go through the motions and do it. And if mm-hmm. it's real from your heart, this is how you do it.
It will show.
It will show in your life. And so those kids, if we have a good mix, so if I have some kids that kind of are there, that jump up and lead worship and run the projector mm-hmm. and help serve food and like help clean the floors and are just a part, mm-hmm. if it's a half and half mix, it's easy breezy.
Yeah.
You know, like everybody has a good time.
Good.
You know, and it's taught those kids kind of how to serve.
Sure.
So like the idea of my mind of having this ministry where we don't just go to church on Sunday, but we are the church. It has taught youth in our community
to be the church.
To be the church.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, instead of having to go under a bridge somewhere to find kids that need to be ministered to, we have a building and they actually come to it. Yeah. And they come in sometimes a hot mess. and so then but not all kids are, and I don't want to stereotype it. I don't like that. So I don't really know who's watching it.
Anybody can come.
Anybody can come.
I have never heard anybody ever say, when they give their testimony, I've never heard anybody ever say, you know, today is, you know, I woke up one day and my life was perfect. I had mm-hmm. given up drugs, alcohol, mm-hmm. Sex. I had given up all the sins that I had ever mm-hmm. done. I made everything right. And I looked over and I kissed my beautiful wife who just recently won a modeling contest. I got perfectly manicured lawn. My kids are great. Today I'm going to follow Jesus.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. People, it's out of the cries of despair. Is when you reach out to Jesus, when you mm-hmm. have nothing. That's when you're at your strongest, is when you're at your weakest. That's when He's at His mm-hmm. strongest. And, you know, God bless you for that, for having an avenue for these kids to come here.
So I want to say that Fuel, and it wasn't even me. So Fuel in my mind has always been, you know, gasoline, obviously. Mm-hmm. It's the energy that pushes you forward in mm-hmm. your spiritual walk. Richard Boyce, who was the youth pastor at Temple before Steve Kirkwood, he came in, and here we are, this crazy eclectic group. And I mean crazy eclectic. I mean, I have every stereotype you could have. Yeah. I mean, I have diversity beyond diversity at Fuel.
There's your intercultural there's master's degree at work right there.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, there you go.
He looked at me and he said, Holly, I think Fuel needs to stand for Friends Under Every Label.
Oh.
And so Fuel kind of took on an acronym, Friends Under Every Label.
There you go.
So it's that's not what we set out for Fuel to stand for, but it is a place where everyone feels welcome. I think that if you ask any of my kids, that's what they would say. I try to meet everybody at the
mm-hmm.
door with a hug, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Like, it's a legit, I love those kids. I get totally defensive if somebody else talks bad about them. I just go into mom mode. and sometimes I want to be really honest, beat them with my shoe. I mean, they are bad at times, but you know what? They are mostly really great. And I can look back the foundation has helped us with a grant not long ago, like not this past grant cycle, but the cycle before, and I had to do a kind of a recap. And we have just had so much progress, really, in the last year and a half.
And you guys now, where are you located at?
We are at 111 West 7th Street. So I joke, Ronnie, we are the youth center behind a pawn shop next to a bar.
Oh yeah.
That meets at 9 o'clock at night and goes till midnight on Friday nights. You know.
Yeah.
We're right by Family Video.
Yeah, okay, right there in the corner.
Yeah, right there.
Absolutely. You know, and I've driven by there. And when you were with us at the fair, Leonard was talking about how, you said the city kind of helped out with that as well. So, I mean, you've got regular citizens helping out. You get the city. I mean, this thing. I mean, you talk about how you envisioned it. I'm sure you didn't think that the Haven and fuel would be this big.
No, I have so many. Honestly, and I get nervous anytime I start saying all the people that help.
Yeah.
But I mean, we have community members that, like, God has just blessed us.
Yes.
Like, I mean, like, for example, we do an event. It's called Acquire the Fire, and it's really kind of expensive.
My daughter loves it.
Yeah, your daughter loves it. She's gone, I think, 3 times.
3 times in a row, yeah.
Yep. It's really kind of expensive. We take 100 kids and we leave town with them, and we have to feed them for anyway, I'm stuttering because it's about $2,500 just for the tickets, and then we have to feed them, and we have to pay for the gases, and we have to figure out
how that's going to work,
how it's all going to work. And so this year they moved it to Indianapolis, and we're like, bringing food became much more difficult. And one of our sponsors, who likes to be anonymous, literally had no idea that we had a need, and just so happened to call us the same week and said, I will make $1,000 donation. And it cost exactly $1,000 to feed the kids that weekend. And so God has always provided in that way.
And here's the thing that with my life is, I'm always the hindsight guy. Hindsight's 20/20 without question. And there's many times in my life where I look back and go, oh, I can clearly see what God was doing then. And there's usually always met by a duh. Why did I ever worry? Why did I ever think? I always used to say this until recently when it was pointed out to me. I would always say, well, he's never let me down yet. Well, you got to strike that word yet, because God never will let you down. And I'm sure that you have kids who come in who may have been burnt by churches, and you're there to heal. Do you have any pastors on hand that come in and pray with the kids? Or because I was there in the very beginning when you were up there on Arians Avenue, and I had the pleasure of able to speak to the great kids. But do you have pastors that are on hand to pray with the kids on Fridays?
Yeah, it's funny you should say that, Ronnie. You need to come back.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm trying to throw myself in there.
You're always welcome.
Okay, well there you go.
Every Friday night at 9 o'clock.
Yes.
So honestly, I consider us a paraministry. So basically what that means is I'm here to support you, Ronnie.
Oh, okay.
So you have youth, you send them my way, and then come with them. Honestly, I try to partner with, so if you have a church, I try to partner with every church. I mean, we try to keep it as open as we possibly can. Some of the churches that have been most supportive, to be really honest, Temple, Calvary, Woodland, obviously Cross Point, and we have church. First Baptist. I'm totally forgetting, and I can't. See, it's bad when you start to name churches, because then they get their feelings hurt.
But you know who you are.
Yeah, that's not right. My guy's right across from where you live.
Park Place.
Park Place Church of God, yes. And then I got a church in Hagerstown. They are.
Oh wow! See, now you're getting.
Yeah, I've got a church out of Hagerstown, and so
we're coming up on a minute to go. Believe it or not, can you believe it's gone by so fast? Any final words? We kind of dove in a lot about the Haven. Anything you would like to say to the community? Put them on the spot.
Life is what you make it. And if you choose to see the negative, so I used to have a blank sheet of paper in my office with one black dot, and if you only go looking for the black dots in this world, that's what you'll see. You have to choose to look for the good.
That's absolutely right.
And we have a lot of good in our community. You just have to look for it.
Got to look for it, and we'll find it right here. You'll find it every time we have here on the spot. That does it. Holly, thank you very much for being the first guest on the spot. We'll catch you up next time with another positive contributor to this community that we call Connorsville, Indiana. We'll catch you next time. We'll see you later on the spot.